Internet, MegaMogwai here, and welcome to another episode of Grown Ass Man Reacts Like a 12-year-old to Children's Card Games. The show. The YouTube show. Hello. It's been a while since I've uploaded. Sorry about that. TLDR, basically, I've been pretty burnt out this last portion of the year in regards to Runeterra because I've been playing it non-stop ever since January. And I've been noticing a bit of a pattern, and I want to make sure that I take my needed breaks before I ultimately really burn out, right? Like I'm trying to avoid that, and I'm laying low and waiting for the new cards to be revealed, which is why I took a few days off of YouTube. Like I said, I'm sorry because I know I promised daily uploads, but ultimately quality is the most important thing for me. And I'll do whatever I have to do, and I believe breaks are important, man. Like I've been working really hard this entire year, giving you guys daily content, and if I can ease up a little bit here and you know, get a little bit of freshness in my life, that doesn't make any sense. But you know, if I can keep it chill and wait for the new cards to come out and then tackle the game heavy on again, it'll ultimately work out better for me. That's just how I see it. And I know a huge portion of you guys understand that, but for those of you who felt like I've, you know, let you down because I haven't been posted daily, and these past few days I've missed an upload, you have a right to feel like that because you do take time out of your day to watch my videos, and there could, you know, there is a certain, you know, standard that you lay out, right? Like you expect something out of me at that point, and I think that's fair. But ultimately, that's basically it. I don't want to dwell too much on this. You know, sometimes I will take breaks. Breaks are important. Mental health is important. And I want to make sure that I'm well rested and fresh so that my content can be as good as it can be from my end. So having that said, you know, because that's been 2 minutes. Okay, it could have been worse. I'll have an annotation in the description down anyways. We are going to take a look at the new champion reveal. I wanted to wait for them to reveal a champion before actually making a video, because in this video not only will I talk about VIKTOR and, well, technically react to him because I haven't seen this video, I haven't seen the Twitter or anything like that. So just keeping that in mind, right? Like this is going to be an actual live reaction. But from that point onwards, we will be talking about the augment keyword that was revealed a few days ago, and some of the new cards that I would assume are, you know, a bit of support for VIKTOR himself. I have no idea what VIKTOR is going to do, though I would assume his ability has something to do with augment and or creation, right? But that's basically as far as my, you know, conspiracy theories go. So without further ado, let's put the headphones on and let's, you know, 12-year reaction. Let's go. Make sure my volume is good. I'm actually going to double check because I think my volume may be really high up. Okay, that seems fine. Let's have a look, shall we? Let's do this.
The time of machines is now.
Okay, wait. I actually want to, I want to fit this a little bit better. My webcam is a little bit in the way here. Maybe if I go full screen. Almost, but I think we can do better. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Let's lower it down here. Nope, smaller. Oh, damn, this is actually, I have to minimize more than I thought. Okay, there we go. Attaboy! Alright. Let's do this.
A new era of technology begins.
Is he supposed to be Russian? Because that's the most stereotypical Russian accent I have ever heard in my life. For the motherland, you know, Jesus, you can tone it down. You know, I've heard Russians speak. Their accent is not that hard. I don't know. You can clearly tell it's not a Russian who's voicing it, but whatever. 4-mana VIKTOR with augment 2/4 round start. Create a hex whore upgrade in hand. I have no idea what that is. Naturally, you played 8 or more created cards, which means VIKTOR could, one of the first things that popped to mind is he can be played alongside Heimerdinger, and it actually does make sense. Which, yeah, it could not be the case, but it is. He has the augmented keyword, and he does create a card at the beginning of every round, which, you know, it's important to know. Like, not only the rounds in which you attack, but every single round. All right? Okay.
Behold! My exquisite creation.
We see that card, we create to enhance the power. Once we created 8 cards, we get to create a Death Ray MK3. Okay. Because you create the 8 card, then you level up, and let's see what he does.
New materials, new improvements.
Oh, wait. Grant Victor a random keyword. Okay, so they're going with the variants. Like, what initially seemed to be like just them not knowing to do with Piltover and bringing us stuff like the Piltover University and other aspects. We've been getting a lot of RNG. In fact, it's safe to assume that most of the inherent, like, within a card randomness is actually from Piltover and Zon. That's kind of like what is becoming, in a way, the region's identity. I have expressed in the past how I am not crazy about this, because I really like Piltover and Zon. I like Heimerdinger and Ezreal's design as champions, and I feel like I also love the Mushroom archetype naturally. So I feel like as a region, ever since the beginning, from the open beta onwards, I feel like Piltover has had a bit of a difficult time, you know, getting a proper identity going on for it, right? Something that the region can do that others can't. And I guess, you know, randomness, variance is going to be the overall identity of Piltover and Zon. And ultimately, you know, while I'm not crazy about that concept, I'm not wildly against it either. Because if implemented right, if done responsibly, you know, RNG is fun. That's why it exists, right, in games. So we have the spell that he generates every round is going to be getting him a random keyword. Let's see what he does when he levels up.
Humanity needs a leader of superior intellect.
And one with an iron fist.
Superior intellect.
We must improve. We must evolve.
Well, that's a sick animation, though.
The machines rise.
I have no idea what the fuck that is, but that looked pretty cool. 4 mana, 3/5. Wait. Before I read anything, I just want to check something real quick. 4 mana, 3/5. 4 mana, 2/4. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. I thought, I don't know why I thought he was like weaker. Oh, okay. Your created cards cost 1 less. Round start, create a Hex Core upgrade in hand. So the Hex Core upgrade doesn't really upgrade itself, right? It just gives you a random keyword.
Ingenious.
Iterative improvement, pick a follower, create a copy of it in hand with +1/+1 for 2 mana. Alright, that seems like a pretty fair card.
Another brilliant design. A vision of progress brought to life.
So happy we get the Piltover champion finally. Something important to know with this card that I noticed a few seconds after reading it actually is that it's it doesn't say base copy, correct? No, it says create a copy of it in hand with +1/+1. Because you're creating the copy of this card in hand, I don't think you're like are you creating an exact copy of it? Or a copy of, like, that's not super clear to me. From what I'm seeing here, you create a copy of it, right? This thing has elusive and quick attack as of right now. But when they play the second copy of it, it has neither of those. So you're not getting an exact copy. Otherwise, it would say in the text. That's what I wanted to make sure here. So pretty important detail right there, right? Because it is kind of like, it reminds me a lot of this 2 mana burst speed spell. It reminds me a lot of like the invoke spell from Targon, right? A sacrifice of tempo, not really outstanding value being generated from the card, but in the right environment with the proper synergies, the card can actually go a long way. All right, here we are in the land of Twatter, as we're going to be going over Victor and the package cards. You know, we just had the reaction, but let's actually talk about the signature spell, iterative improvement, as we see right here, and all these things. So, Victor, like I mentioned prior, does make sense with Heimerdinger, because what I really like about Victor's design, in comparison to, honestly, the most the majority of champions that we've gotten from Call of the Mountain, right? One of the issues that I've personally had with Call of the Mountain as an expansion, and yes, here I am talking about a negative aspect of the new set of cards. You know, like there's some people out there who really dislike, you know, any sort of negativity whatsoever, but it's important to talk about these things. I've been reading like a lot of Twitter and stuff lately, just, you know, stay in touch, you know, with the community and stuff. And, you know, I saw like this thread of you know, Twitch streamers and how, you know, a bunch of people just complaining about just negativity in general. And it's like, dude, it's like people can't accept like that their game can be criticized. You know what I mean? Even by somebody who loves it, you know, I don't know. It's just kind of wild to me. Regardless, yeah, the whole reason I'm going on this ramble is because I think Call of the Mountain has been a little bit underwhelming when it comes to champion design. I believe Diana, Leona, even the likes of Aurelion Sol, Nocturne specifically. A lot of champions that have been designed with this expansion have been kind of like, their archetypes have been pre-built for you, right? Nocturne Nightfall aggro, for example, is automatically built by the game itself and not you, really. And there's quite a few decks out there that have followed the same pattern, right? I believe, even though as a developer it is important for your set to, you know, be somewhat predictable in the sense of what's going to turn out and be powerful and such. Like, you need to, like, developers obviously plan out, you know, the card combinations within their own set and in conjunction with the existing card pool before releasing a set. Naturally, there's a lot of playtesting and there's a lot that goes behind. You know, no card is like just some random idea. Everything is supposed to have a bit of a purpose, and being able to predict how the metagame is going to shape out as well really depends on the knowledge and skill level of the developers in question. But I believe while Runeterra has done a good job at, in a way, predicting, you know, how certain cards are going to be combined together and such, the way in which they've done so is by basically kind of like like I mentioned, designing archetypes for you, right? They come up with a series of cards, and these cards work extremely well in a specific environment and don't really make sense in any other environment, or in the majority of cases, right? Examples from Call of the Mountain, like I said, Nocturne. The Nocturne deck just like built itself, honestly, like from day one. There's also other examples. There's a lot of examples actually out there, like for one, the name of the, I forgot the name of the I'm here trying to make a point, and my brain is like kind of like failing me a little bit right here. But you know, obviously besides Nocturne, like other examples include Aurelion Sol, Leona, which is basically the most clear-cut example of this, but it goes beyond like Targon, right? Even though Trundle perhaps has been a little bit more flexible when it comes to design, and I am actually a fan of Lulu and how they built her. There are other examples like Tahm Kench and Soraka, which, while were very exciting, in particular Tahm Kench, they were predetermined in a way, right? Like, basically the best deck with both of them is Tahm Kench and Soraka together. So even though we had a new expansion with 3 new champions, those champions only came in like with one viable deck each, and 2 of them shared the same list. So it hasn't felt like we've gotten that much new stuff to play with. Like the KDA package was actually arguably considerably more exciting than the second batch of the Call of the Mountain expansion. And this is a pattern that they repeated a lot. It is a little bit concerning because part of me believes that, doesn't want to, but believes that Riot may be running out of ideas regarding designing cool and intriguing effects around the core design of their own game, because we're seeing a lot of repetition. Like we're seeing, even with the Go Hard cards, with the KDA cards, we have Go Hard and Unspeakable Horror being basically new variants of Vile Feast. We see with Demacia Single Combat being reprinted in a card called Strafing Strike, costs 4 more mana, and heals dragons, but it's basically single combat, right? And now we see quite the same patterns being repeated with Piltover by just giving them more damage, more alternative mystic shots, right? We already saw that with Gacha. I know there's only so much you can do in the game, but I feel like there's a lot more to be done before they continue to recycle, you know, region-defining effects in different variations and stuff. Like, I feel like that's being a little bit overdone as of now, and I am a little bit concerned by the future because of this. Hopefully, you know, they can step it up a little bit, because ultimately, I do believe Call of the Mountain has been underwhelming as an expansion compared to the greatness that was Rising Tides. Though I may be a little bit biased because I found Rising Tides mechanics and overall design super compelling. So I'm going on this ramble because Viktor is actually a good thing in that sense. And what I mean by this is that Viktor represents a champion from Call of the Mountain that does not actually build itself. The deck that this card belongs in does not actually seemingly build itself. Maybe I'm wrong, but for the time being, it doesn't. And that's actually very nice. Why doesn't it not build itself? Because Viktor, unlike some of his fellow Call of the Mountain brothers, has a level of requirement that is more flexible and less, like, defined, right? You've played 8 or more created cards. Created cards, there are so many different ways to create cards in this game that make this level of requirement the antithesis of the likes of Nightfall or Daybreak from Diana and Leona, right? Which is just basically play 4 Daybreak effects and you level up. Yeah, it's just like it's like Runeterra for kindergarten, you know? Like, but this is definitely very very interesting because you can mix him with Heimerdinger, you can generate turrets to level him up. You combine him with Noxus, with the likes of Draven, who can generate Axis, even the likes of Katarina generating the fleeting Blade's Edge as well. Like that's also a thing. There's many cards out there that create stuff. Like obviously Target Invoke is something to consider. But not only that, man, like also Ionia, I believe, yeah, Ionia also creates stuff as well. Like pretty much most regions have access, if not all of them, have access to some way to create cards, right? Which makes it so that while Viktor may likely be the new face of Heimerdinger with Tarkin, you know, replacing Vi potentially in a more synergistic build, we could see him in all sorts of different decks. And I don't, like, unlike the likes of Soraka, for example, which is, or Shyvana more specifically, because Shyvana is like, obviously just, she only has one deck, right? Viktor seems like he can provide more. And that makes me very excited as a deck builder. The fact that I have the ability to, like, I'm able to actually build multiple decks about Viktor because of the way he was designed, right? So I'm a huge fan of that. When it comes to Viktor's, I've rambled quite a bit about this, but I think it's a very important subject, and I kind of wanted to, like, you know, express a little bit how I felt about the current direction design-wise in this game, right? We got Viktor's Deathray MK1, Deathray MK2, and Deathray MK3. I believe Deathray MK1 will be an actual card. That also happens to be Viktor's signature card. And this will convert into MK2 and then into MK3. Now, I think this is pretty... I think this card is okay. I don't think it's anything crazy. For 1 mana, we're doing 1 to a unit, and then we're creating an MK2 in the top 3 cards of our deck, right? Then when we draw MK2, it's basically like a Mystic Shot that cannot go face. And it's shuffling an MK3, which is like a different version of Gacha, right? Like a safer version of Gacha. That's the best way to describe this card. The issue with these 3 cards is the fact that in order to get Deathray MK3, you have to wait out a little bit. You have to play MK1, you have to draw MK2, and then you have to play MK2 and wait to draw MK3. So for such a long, tedious process, it feels like the payoff is not quite there. A very good comparison for Deathray is the likes of Avarus and Trapper from Freljord. Avarus and Trapper from Freljord is a 3 mana 3/3 that will generate you a 1 mana 5/5 in the top 3 cards of your deck. Very similar effect to these. The difference is a 3 mana 3/3, that's already the standard vanilla baseline, maybe a little bit under, but not, like, still super legit. You can block into fearsomes, you can trade into 2/3s and survive, etc., right? But on top of that, you're getting a 1 mana 5/5. A 1 mana 5/5 is just absolutely ridiculous. That will never be able to exist as a card. That's a difference. Enraged Yeti will never exist as a card on its own. Deathray MK2, Deathray MK3, I could totally see these cards actually existing, you know, because they're not particularly better than some of their actual counterparts, like Get Excited or Mystic Shot by any stretch of the imagination, right? So that's where I actually do find Viktor himself more impressive than his signature spell. I think his signature spell is actually a little bit doo-doo. I could be wrong, though, because perhaps the ability to consistently generate more and more spells. We've seen the impact that Go Hard has had, though I don't think this is the same because we're not getting that crazy payoff, right? With the spells themselves. But if we do get a payoff with Viktor, you know, because of Augment, like, I could really be downplaying the effect of Augment in Viktor as a champion here. Completely. Absolutely. Definitely, the thing about Viktor, though, is that he will play a similar role to Heimer in the sense that he will be a value engine that you will want to keep safe for as long as you can. Piltover as a region has a lot of very neat tools for offensive purposes. But when it comes to defense, their best thing is suit up, right? For little, you know, weenie dudes to turn them into a 4/4 and allow you to survive certain hits, right? But besides that, defense is not really what Piltover and Zaun is about. So finding the right region to combine Viktor with will be pretty important. As Targon really comes to mind, Ionia also comes to mind. Both regions are very good at defending their engines for different reasons. You know, you have Bastion and neat combat tricks that cycle through your deck. Will also with resources to heal as well. Guiding Touch, Pale Cascade, like I said, Bastion. While Ionia has stuff like Nopify and Deny, amongst other things. So definitely think that Viktor will benefit from being combined with a region that can apply a little bit of you know, defensive utility, right? So Viktor as a champion is very promising because it's very hard for me to tell you exactly what deck he's gonna be in. Like there are numerous ideas that I'm looking into, right? But none of them are like super, nothing's for certain with this champion. And that's very exciting. That's very exciting because when I've seen other, like lately with champion reveals, it's been like, okay, I want to build this deck around it. Like I knew I wanted to build Tahm Kench Soraka when I saw Tahm Kench. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what the developers wanted me to do, right? I'm excited for something different that perhaps will lead to not as predictable deck building it, and we'll see just how good Viktor can turn out in that sense. Iterative improvement, by the way. I don't know what the general consensus is on this card. Like I mentioned prior, it reminds me a lot of the 2-mana Invoke from Targon, as it is a 2-mana loss of tempo. You can create a copy of a follower. It can include enemy followers, which is important to note, but again, you're paying 2 mana for it, though it does allow you to... This card opens up a lot of crazy plays, which is something... That's like the biggest thing for me, like the flexibility that it provides you with. It's not crazy value, but the flexibility is really neat. And I think this is a card that may actually find really, really strong value in the right hands. Like in the hands of a knowledgeable and strong player, this card can reach quite the lengths, right? But under a noob's guidance, this is just gonna be a pretty bad just like invoke sort of like mechanism, right? So basically those are those cards. I believe they are listed here as well. We also see the Neandroid right there. I'm also going to be talking about these cards because I didn't really talk about the augment mechanic. When you play a created card, grant me +1. This is where the likes of... The thing is, Viktor doesn't have elusive, right? So he can always be blocked. But if you're able to grant him elusive with like the Allegiance unit from Piltover, for example, amongst other things, Augment becomes really, really menacing. But Augment really shines when you have either elusive or overwhelm as a keyword, which is why Mechanized Mimic is really interesting, though she is very expensive. Keep that in mind. And she does share a mana cost with Heimerdinger too, which, believe it or not, will be very relevant as we see some spoilers here and there. I'm not sure what are the other cards that they were mentioning. Are those all the cards? Because oh, no, here they are. We got quite a bit of talking about today. So we see calculated creations, 2 mana burst speed spell, create an armed gearhead, Neandroid, or ballistic bot in hand. I like the fact that both of these cards, the one that I mentioned prior, creating a copy of a follower with +1/+1 stats, and this one right here, even though they're technically very, especially this one, like they may make you think, oh, randomness, creation, randomness, Hearthstone, create. Ultimately, no, Hearthstone was explore, Gwent was create. Sorry. This is a selected series of cards, right? Like, this is a specific card pool. Armed Gearhead, Neandroid, or Ballistic Bot. And I really, really like this design. If they are going to make, you know, randomness be the defining thing for Piltover, at least if it's control randomness, I'll be happy about it. Ballistic Bot is really interesting. He gives you like a worse version of a warning shot, but he does give you that every single turn, which has pretty big implications, especially when combining this follower with any sort of champion that can benefit from plunder. So, you know, a Bilgewater combination really comes to mind when thinking about the likes of the Ballistic Bot. We also have the Armed Gearhead, you know, with Augment and Quick Attack, which can actually be, you know, in the right build can be a legit 1-drop, even though that, if it was a 1/2, it would be so much better. Well, it probably could be broken at that point. It would probably be broken. So I also like the art a lot. And then the Neandroid, again, Augment paired with Elusive is so powerful that it warrants, like it actually makes a 3-mana 1/3 viable, right? Like that's how strong this keyword combination is. And, you know, this card may seem pretty memey, but it could actually find a home. It could be pretty threatening as a win condition. And here's the Ignition being generated. This is the worst version of Warning Shot. It's slow speed. It costs mana, actually. And definitely allows or invites in some counterplay. And this is perhaps one of the cards that I'm most excited for. The Hexcore Foundry, a 3-mana landmark that says round start, all players draw 1. This is the landmark Timo has been dreaming about since day one. And I will definitely be playing this in Mushroom decks. Amongst other things, this card has a lot of implications though, because this card can be very punishing in this meta, as there's a lot of very slow decks, like for example, Arnavia Control, which get absolutely decimated by this card. This card is also extremely bad against fast-paced aggro decks, for obvious reasons. Will this card be good enough to fit an aggro deck, despite the fact that you are sacrificing tempo by playing this, you know, doing 3 mana and getting nothing immediately, right? Which is, you know, most aggro decks want their plays to be immediate, right? But this could be a great way to avoid running out of gas as an aggro deck and to punish slower, greedier decks that only play 1 card per turn, making them overdraw, you know, obliterate extra draw, and overall potentially even help mill them a little bit, if that is even possible. So, big fan of Hexcore Foundry. Definitely one of my favorite cards, and cannot wait to try it out with Timo. It's pretty obvious that it has some really good synergy with Mushroom decks, as forcing your opponent to draw every round start is a very big deal. We don't have anything else in the game that does that, or even comes close to that. Like, we have Veteran Investigator, but that's only just a one-off proc, right? So this could go a long way, and this card could actually make Mushrooms like a legit archetype. And that would be the day, wouldn't it? That would be a day in which Legend of Runeterra, like a top-tier deck, is an actual Mushroom Timo deck, and not just like an aggro deck with a one-off of Timo because it's a 1-drop, right? I would love to see that shit, and hopefully we do. But that's basically it. We've been rambling for quite a bit, almost 30 minutes here. VIKTOR is very exciting. I think he could potentially be very competitive, but it is also a very difficult champion to evaluate. You know, only theoretically, right? Because he's not going to be as straightforward to build around as other champions that we've received this expansion have been. And that's what really makes me most excited about him. I've been looking forward to the Piltover and Zon champion for a long time now. And for now, it's not really disappointing. So I guess we'll see in a few days. And that's basically it. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for daily Legends of Runeterra content. Even though I don't post every single day, it depends. I already probably have explained enough of that in the intro. But regardless, love ya. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you around.